Yo, what's up guys? Old School Dan here, and welcome back to How to Build the Classic Physique. We're on part 6. We're going to talk about how to build a classic back. We're going to go over some quick anatomy. I'm going to give you a couple facts. I'm going to give you some models to look at, the difference between high and low lats, how to work each each genetic. Like if you have high lats, you might have to do this, and if you have lower lats, you might have to do this to bring up your physique because it's like they both kind of have like their flaws in them, and I'm gonna tell you how to fix that. So cool. Let us get started. All right, let's go over some quick anatomy. Now, we talked about the traps in the shoulders, how we don't want to overbuild those traps because it kind of ruins the whole illusion of the physique. And the three parts of the lats, the three parts of the back that I really want you to focus on is the teres minor, the teres major, and the latimus dorsi. Now, Vince talked about how it's important to really emphasize the teres major. So he talked about doing racing diving pull. I forgot what they're called. Racing diving pull downs or something like that, where it's kind of like you bend over. It's kind of like a cable row. It's a little difficult to explain, but it's like if you look up racing diving lat pulls, that shit works the teres major really good, and that's what Vince talked about. He's like, oh dude, emphasize on the teres major because that is the part that makes you look really classic. And and in some of the stuff I've read of him, like the exercises that he recommends have to do a lot with the lat bellies and the teres major. A lot of pull downs, a lot of like they're kind of like cable rows, but they're position you're positioning yourself to really attack that teres major. I don't see a lot of thickness exercises in his book, but there is one. It's called the seal row. Like that one, he recommends that one, but he uses dumbbells instead of a barbell. But a lot of stuff that the exercises that he recommends is just mainly the on the width of the back. And let me show you some models because these are some really good models that you want to look at and pay attention to. All right, so we have two really good examples of models right here. We got Robbie Robinson on the left, amazing lats. It was Vince Gironda that was talking. He in one of his videos, he was like, "Oh yeah, that's how we want it to look. We want those Robbie Robinson lats." And Robbie does have some really good lats. And another one who has really good lats is Steve Reeves. Now, like I said before in the other video, they did a lot of behind the neck chinning. That was like the staple in their exercises. Like Leroy Colbert, not Reg Park, but Steve Reeves. He did a lot of lat pull down exercises like pull downs, chin ups. He didn't really have much of a thick back because he really focused on the width, and that's kind of important because when when you focus too much on thickness, it kind of gives you like a blocky look, and it's like you're not really widening your lats. And Arnold talked about this too. I was watching a video from him a long time ago. I think it was like 2 years ago, and he was like, you know, we didn't do a lot of the bend over rowing. We did a lot of the chin ups because that is what the back's mainly about. It's mainly about the width of the back. That's what we want. We want the width, a really wide back. He said, yeah, we focus a lot on chinning, and Steve Reeves, he did a lot of chinning. He really enjoyed the lat pull down machine, and they even built a machine for him to so he could target his. I honestly think he was trying to target his teres major too, but he didn't know it back then because he wasn't like a big science guy. But Vince is all about science and anatomy. And it's like, oh, you need to do this to hit that muscle. But they personally built a machine for Steve Reeves. It was the seated cable row. I forgot who was it. Czech Jordan, not Czech Jordan. It was something York. I forgot his name. The guy who literally trained Steve Reeves. Like, well, since he was a boy, he trained him, and I think he was him that designed personally. He personally designed that machine for him. I can't remember who it was, but I know Steve Reeves did a lot of lat pull downs and the cable row. That is what he really enjoyed doing. And remember that article I talked about? It was the he how some guy from the 1950s, I got maybe 1940s, I can't remember, but he outlined the classic physique for you and for me actually. And now I'm outlining for you. But anyways, he talked about, oh, you don't want to do a lot of like thickness exercises for the back because it kind of ruins the illusion. Because if you like that too much thickness is gonna ruin the width of the back. He said focus a lot on chinning, behind the neck pull down, behind the neck chins, front chins, pull ups, stuff like that. Said don't want to build too much thickness because they're gonna give you like a blocky look. He said don't do a lot of Romanian deadlifts, bent over rowing. I mean, you can do some bent over rowing, but let me give you some advice. Actually, let me tell you a story, a quick story. About 2 years ago, I had bought a plan on how to on some from some guy on Instagram who sells classic physique plans. And he's a pretty big guy. Don't remember his name, but bought his plan, and his plan mainly consisted of lat pull downs, bent over row, cable row, and I think the last one was dumbbell pullovers. Yeah, but like I kept doing a lot of like bent over rowing because I was like, damn, I need a wide back. I need a wide back, and I was pretty naive and like novice at the time. I wasn't naive. I was more like novice. I barely started getting into lifting. I think it was my first year or second year of lifting, and I did a lot of bent over rowing, and I was like, fuck, why aren't I gaining a wide back? Like, what the hell's going on? And then it wasn't until I read one of Vince's books, and he said focus a lot more on the width of the back, like focus more on that. Where my back started to get really really wide, and now my back's pretty wide. People tell me, "Oh, dude, how do you get your back so wide?" And I'm just like, dude, honestly, the only thing I do is just like pull-ups. I do chin-ups all the time. Like there was one point where I was doing chin-ups every day for like a month, but then that shit gets kind of tiring, so I stopped doing that. But honestly, if you're looking to get a classic back, definitely focus a lot on the width of your back. Do a lot of pull-ups. Honestly, doing pull-ups has really brought up the Christmas tree in my back. Like it was crazy because I thought that the bent over rows would do that, but nah, dude. Honestly, like doing more pull-ups and more chinning and more like pull downs definitely hits that Christmas tree, man. Definitely builds some good that definitely builds the Christmas tree in your back. All right, so let's start wrapping up that models. Yeah, definitely they focus a lot on the chin ups, the behind the neck, and they focus a lot on the width, and that's what you should focus on. Focus a lot on your width because that's what Arnold said, and he said it's about the width of the back, not so much the thickness. And let's move on to the next subject, which is we're gonna talk about the difference between high lats versus low lats. All right, so I don't know who the guy is on the left. That might be Dennis Wolf, maybe. I don't know who that is, but he definitely has the high lats, and Larry Scott has the low lats. Now, the advantages the high lats has is they're gonna have a naturally like wide back. Like they won't have to do much chin ups or like pull ups, and they'll get a wide back because that is just in their genetics. Because they don't really have much lower lats, but they have a lot of high lats. So it's like once they start chinning, boom, they can get some really nice looking lats. But on the right, Larry Scott, he has the lower lats that kind of gives you the more cobra look. That's an advantage. But I feel like since I have the lower lats, I feel like it's hard to get a wider back because I wish I had the high lats because I would have like a sick ass back right now, like a freaking stupid wide back right now. But I'm over here having some trouble with it. So I've been doing a lot of chin ups and shit like that to fix that. But Larry Scott has the low lats. And a disadvantage of the high lats is they're going to be lacking thickness in the lower lats and the lower back. So they're going to have to work pretty hard to bring that up. And with the low lats, you don't really have to do that because it's like you can easily build the thickness in your lower back and build the thickness in your middle back and then do more chin up, focus more on chin ups, and you can kind of fix that up a little bit. So let's move on to what exercises should you do if you have high lats and what exercises should you do if you have the lower lats. All right, so if you have high lats, you should focus more on targeting your lower lats and targeting your lower back. So some exercises you would do would probably be the close grip neutral grip pull-ups and the one arm rows. Frank Zane said there's a certain way you can do the one arm rows that can really target your lower lats, and I haven't learned that yet, but I think it might have to do with bringing the dumbbell to your waist or like a certain point in your body. But you guys can look that part up. But definitely you want to work on those lower lats because I think that might be a weakness in someone's physique if they have the high lats. These people don't really have to focus on the width that much because they're like already born with it. They're already born with the naturally like wide lats. It's like it's gonna come pretty quick, like the width of the lats. So they have to focus more on the lower lats and the thickness of those parts. All right, so yeah, those are some tips about the high lats, and now let's move on to some tips about the lower lats. All right, so if you have low lats, you should be focusing like me more on the width. I do a lot of chinning, a lot of pull-ups, and I do a lot of pull downs. I do pretty much any pull down to the chest, anything like that. And I focus a little bit on thickness. Like once in a while, I'll do some bent over rows. Once in a while, I'll do some one arm rows. But I mainly keep it to chinning, like weighted pull ups, chin ups. I never do behind the neck chinning, but I know back then that was their staple. Like you'll find it in any old school bodybuilding book that behind the neck behind the neck chins are king because that's also what that guy mentioned in that one article that do a lot of chinning, do all types of chinning. All right, so yeah. Now let's wrap it up. We talked about how Vince wants you to really focus on the teres major and the teres minor, bringing up that width, and the classic physique definitely is about the illusion, and having wide lats is going to give you that classic look. Another thing I forgot to mention. Now, this is a little confusing for me because Arnold was about, oh, it was it Dave Draper? I forgot who it was. They said on the classic physique, you really need to focus on your lower lats, like doing a lot of like underhand rows, underhand pull downs, bringing up those lower lats. But Vince said, do not focus on your lower lats because if you do, it will destroy the illusion of the physique. Now, there's a difference between looking like the classic bodybuilder and the old school bodybuilder. Like the bodybuilders from the 80s and 70s are different from the bodybuilders in the 40s and 50s, obviously, but not just because of steroids, but the types of physiques they had. Like I think back then they focused more on the width of the back. Like they did a lot of chinning and some better rowing, and it's like in the 80s, in the 90s, or the 70s and the 80s, they focused a lot more on that thick back and the width. They took it to an extreme, but I'd honestly focus on Vince's advice that's saying that you really need to emphasize that teres minor by doing a lot of with exercises like pull downs, chin ups, and stuff like that. That's what Steve Reeves did to get his physique. He did a lot of chin ups, and then I mean just focus a little bit on the bent over rowing. Don't get so much thickness in the back because that kind of ruins it gives you too much of a power look, and that kind of ruins the proportions and the symmetry and the illusion of the physique. So yeah, definitely follow those guidelines. You know, focus a lot on the width, do lots of chinning, do all types of chinning, do a little bit of bent over rowing to keep that thickness in the back. But like I said, Steve Reeves, Vince Gironda, those guys are the people you really want to listen to and pay attention to because those guys are like legendary. Like Steve Reeves is pretty freaking legendary. Vince Gironda not so much because he's very controversial and everything he did was like super unorthodox because he invented it himself. But yeah. All right, so I don't really have anything else for you guys. I literally gave you all the information I know, like about the history, about the routines I've seen, about the facts and stuff like that, the outlines and stuff like that. All right, so yeah, if you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe, and also share this video with someone who wants a classic physique so they can end the struggle and the pain of that shit. All right, so next video we're gonna talk about how to build a classic chest because this is an easy one, honestly. This is one that's like pretty overlooked, and people ask me, "How do you build the 3D chest?" And we're gonna definitely hit that up the next video. So I'm pretty excited. And also, if you're wondering who this is, this guy is Bruce Randell. I'm probably gonna make a video on him. I don't want to give out too much information, but he's a pretty cool guy that is super underrated. I'm gonna bring him to the top. Same thing with Vince Gironda because those guys really deserve some recognition because they made a pretty big impact. Vince made a pretty big impact, but no one really knows about him. And this guy has a pretty crazy transformation story, and I'll get to that in another video, probably something like that. But yeah, please like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. This is Old School Dan checking out. Peace.